Thanks a lot. And now for the Greens, it's Manuela-Ripa for 3 minutes, please.
Danke, Herr Lang. I will speak in English. Dear colleagues, the Paris Agreement is pretty clear. Reduce CO2 emissions to an extent which keeps global warming below 1.5 degrees Celsius. The harm that CO2 creates for the climate produces costs that are not integrated today in the production and the value chains. We need to internalize these external costs. That's what the E-Systems so far was trying to do, but failed. At the same time, we need to find a way to tackle this not only for products produced in the EU, but also for those being imported into our internal market. And that's where the CBAM will be a very supportive instrument. In my amendments, I have concentrated on the following aspects. More than 20% of the Union's domestic CO2 emissions are imported, and the greenhouse gas emissions embedded in the international trade have been constantly rising. The European Union, as a major world trading power, can and should be a front-runner when it comes to introducing CBAM. The current WTO rules are outdated. Today, it is not only a question of if, but how we can implement CBAM into a WTO-compatible manner. But as of Friday last week, we may face a change of the current situation. Joe Biden, as the future US president, will most probably not continue the WTO bashing of his predecessor. The opposite will be the case, as he will present his own CBAM. First hints have already been articulated in the INTA committee. So let's feed the discussion by a robust European proposal, rather than wait for a weak suggestion from the other side of the Atlantic. The race is on. The EU, represented by the Commission, should therefore present a corresponding reform of trade rules. However, in order to do so, we need to understand how much of CO2 is in such a good or service. This is why we need to develop a standard on the tracing and tracking of carbon content in products. It would be clear and an advantage if we as EU develop this standard for us with a clear vision to make it compatible also on a global level. This mechanism should clearly serve the purpose of better addressing greenhouse gas emissions embedded in international trade. It is also a way to incentivize the climate action both within our territory but also by our trading partners. Would the CBAM qualify for protectionism? My answer is still no. The reason is very simple. It is serving a purpose that has been qualified as a global common good, namely reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. As this is the global standard, the entities adopting this underlying mechanism strive for this common goal rather than protecting themselves. However, as already alluded initially, the ETS was not fast and efficient enough to address the requirements of the Paris Agreement. This is why a CO2 content measuring and pricing combined with a CBAM should be established instead of ETS. To have two systems in parallel creates inconsistencies and additional burden. Finally, the measures of a CBAM can also have a positive effect in terms of jobs, and we should make sure that the transition period is not burdened with red tape and with additional administrative costs for the corresponding industries. Thank you very much.